Holy Week kicks off this week at Bethlehem, and in place of our typical online devotion and worship format, I want to offer a reflection on Holy Week, which begins April 13th, to help all of you think about the series of stories in a slightly different way than you might be used to doing. I want to do this because I think in the Christian community, we believe that we know this major holiday and celebration very well. If people are going to go to church at all this year, they're going to go this week. And when they do, they will hear stories that they always hear and probably encounter messages or sermons that are very similar to what they heard last year and the year before and the year before that. At least that's how it always feels to me. So today, I want to briefly reflect on this week so that the depth of these stories can catch you, challenge you, give you life. So, kicking off, Palm Sunday is often depicted as Jesus' triumphal entry into Jerusalem. You may be familiar with the story. The Jewish community is gathered to celebrate Passover in Jerusalem, and as Jesus arrives, the crowd throws down coats and other things as he rides on a colt or a donkey into the city. People are gathered around and cheer. It feels good, right? It's a party atmosphere. No doubt in worship services across the country, there will be kids waving palm leaves, and the pageantry will be out in full force. But what if the story is so much more than a celebration? Palm Sunday, it tells the story of a peasant procession entering Jerusalem, which is full of symbolism, where Jesus enters like a king of Israel. So this is a political statement not lost on anyone. Jesus is heralded a messianic king. The problem is that there's already a king, and it's not Jesus. During the same time, on the opposite side of the city comes a Roman imperial procession with war horses, soldiers, and golden eagles on poles. It was the standard practice of the Roman governors of Judea to be in Jerusalem for the major Jewish festivals like Passover. Not out of reverence, not because they respected the people, but in case there was trouble. Palm Sunday, it's a story about two processions. Two processions entered Jerusalem. One was a peasant procession, the other an imperial procession. Jesus proclaimed the kingdom of God, Pilate proclaimed the power of empire. Jesus' procession deliberately countered what was happening on the other side of the city. Pilate's procession embodied the power, glory, and violence of the empire that ruled the world at the time. Jesus' procession embodied an alternative vision, what he called the kingdom of God. The kingdom of God versus the kingdom of Caesar. One brought peace through self-sacrificial love and service. The other brought peace through violence, swords, and force. Two processions, two different ways of seeing the world, two different ways of living in the world. You see the tension, right? This story, it sets the stage for what is to unfold. Next in our Holy Week lineup, we move to Maundy Thursday, which tells the story of Jesus' last meal with his disciples from John's Gospel. Having made a very public and controversial political statement on Palm Sunday, Jesus is now out of the public and alone with his disciples. Not his friends, his followers. This is really important. Jesus is their rabbi, their teacher, and they are his students. There is a power differential between student and teacher. Jesus is the master, the rabbi is above the learner. That's how it is. The disciple follows and serves at the rabbi's pleasure. Jesus has the authority to dismiss them. So, when Jesus, on this last meal together, puts on the uniform of a household slave and the posture of a servant to wash his disciples' feet, it's confusing and dishonorable, especially for a distinguished rabbi, one that is just engaged in a political demonstration riding into Jerusalem as a king. Oh my gosh, this story, it's scandalous. But Jesus needs people to understand, to follow him. To understand the kingdom of God means that one takes the posture of a servant. To love God is to love your neighbor in a way that leads to humility and patience and understanding and servitude. This is not the kind of king that the crowds on Palm Sunday want. What Jesus is doing on Maundy Thursday looks like weakness, so to speak, and will not lead to the revolution that people are hoping for. It's not the expectation of what a messianic king from God is to be. And what happens when expectations go unmet? Jesus is handed over to the authorities by one of his inner circle, who I think feels betrayed by Jesus' message. This is not the kind of teacher he signed up to follow. And so Holy Week then continues on with Good Friday, the story of the crucifixion. In the ancient world, there were many ways to kill someone, to get rid of them. A straight sword to the back of the neck was quick, painless, and economical. Stoning was a form of capital punishment used by Israel and other countries that was highly participatory. Killing criminals in the arena by wild animals was entertaining for the public. But crucifixion? Entirely different. It was expensive. It required resources, scarce resources like iron, wood, and just the time to pay guards to watch over the proceedings. It was slow and reserved for non-Roman citizens, low-class peasants, and individuals often charged with crimes against the state. And so a peasant Jewish rabbi being proclaimed as king of the Jews and engaging in political demonstrations, riling up the crowds as he rides into Jerusalem, he will die. Crucifixions were meant as a deterrent, a warning that if anyone does what this person did, they would meet the same fate. The kingdom of Caesar, maintained through violence, intimidation, and force, put an end to the kingdom of God that Jesus proclaimed. And isn't this just how the world works? The powerful are threatened, the powerful act, the powerful win. The poor, the least, the low, those looking for justice, they rarely find it. Hate shuts down love, violence destroys peaceful resistance, forgiveness, peace, grace, mercy, empathy, kindness, love, hope, all of these things are seen as weakness and useless. Those who practice these qualities are easy prey. Jesus' disciples, in fear, disperse after he dies, and they hide. Everything they had hoped for is gone, and I would expect that feelings of loss, grief, anger, resentment at this waste of time and the futility of all, they ran deep. Then Holy Week continues with Easter. No one was expecting this. No one was imagining that there could be a second chance, but in a great reversal, God raises Jesus. The kingdom of God that Jesus proclaimed, the way of self-sacrificial love and mercy, the way of peace and forgiveness, are too much for the kingdom of Caesar to stop, for violence to silence. In the resurrection story, the way of Jesus is vindicated, and his followers are invited to continue to follow their teacher, their king, as he taught them to be servants to others, especially to the least, to be peacemakers, to be people who see the world and its people and creation as God's cherished treasure. Do you know the story of this Holy Week? Do you see how it flows? Do you see the questions that it's asking of you? Whose kingdom do you identify with? The kingdom of God or the kingdom of Caesar? Whose way of living in this world is more compelling, more life-giving, more powerful? Do you see Jesus, the servant? And will you follow in that way? Do you see the value in radical love and how it changes you and the world in which you live? Do you see your faith less as a belief system and more as a way of living in this world? Oh, this is all such good stuff, important stuff. These are the stories of Holy Week. Do you really know them? If you want to go deeper into these stories, join us for worship this Holy Week at Bethlehem. Palm Sunday, April 13th, Maundy, Thursday, April 17th, Good Friday, April 18th, Easter Vigil, April 19th, and Easter Sunday, April 20th. Times and other details can be found on Bethlehem's website. I look forward to seeing all of you for Holy Week at Bethlehem.